Welcome back to Unlocking the Code. It's obviously been a fair while since you've heard from me. I sort of checked out voluntarily at first for a couple of reasons, and then involuntarily. Basically, for those that aren't aware, I was scapegoated earlier this year in the job that I was doing. And that hurt my soul. There's no other real way to put it. I know that a percentage of my audience is some students that I've taught over the years. And I stand by how I've taught and what I've taught. However, time and again, I've been shown that regardless of how good a job you do, you are only a number. However, in the case in point that I'm talking about now, I was used. I was used to hide a failure. A failure that was quite clear to pretty much everybody, and everybody knew it. However, in order for certain people to save their ass, they had to use a scapegoat, and that scapegoat was me. It's not a unrealistic thing to say that it took away my passion for teaching, to the point where I don't think I'll ever teach the way I was teaching before again. Am I a teacher still? Yes. However, can I subject myself to the government-run, dog-eat-dog, profit-driven business that is tertiary training? Again, I'm not sure I can do that to myself. Mainly for my own peace of mind, yeah? And I'd really been struggling to deal with that. I sensed it coming, and I had an alternate plan in the works, so I haven't actually lost work. My income has been greatly reduced. However, I've still been working, which is a good thing. And it all sort of came to a head. My lovely wife took the girls away a few weeks ago for a couple of nights, and it was a good time for me to find some space and relax and let go. And I did that and basically fell very, very ill. One of the guys I've had on the podcast before, and he's actually got an episode waiting in the bag, Brendan Murphy, talks about the fact that the flu, or, how we get the flu and stuff like that, is actually more an immunological response to stress. And I actually saw an example of that because I was really ill. I was really sick, guys. I can't even tell you. I was coughing and sweating and, you name any nasty flu symptoms, that's what was happening to me. And my girls didn't get sick at all. Right? It was a purely stress-based response from me because I hadn't dealt with some things. One of those being what happened to me at my former employer earlier this year. It really hurt my soul. I can't tell you how much it affected me. And I really thought I'd found a home now, and I was looking forward to continuing on the work there. Nowhere's ever perfect. However, the lengths that some people will go to protect their own skin is quite fascinating. However, there was that, and there was me trying to understand what my teaching would be and how I would teach into the future, and whether or not it was my fault. There's been a big lesson on the journey to self the last few weeks. It always is a continuous journey. We know that, yeah. It's a continuous journey of self. It's a continuous understanding and involvement. However, I've been prone to martyrdom, prone to being a martyr. And when these things happen, and they've happened to me in the past, it's always been my fault. It's never been anyone else's fault. I take all the responsibility and the blame upon myself because I am the abject failure. I had to realise in this instance that I wasn't, and that I did the best I could with the things that I had, and I was just used as a scapegoat. As I said, the level and how people save themselves is quite staggering. There's actually a very, very good example of modern society in that. However, what it did is it allowed me to move forward, and it allowed me to see and understand different sides of self that I hadn't quite seen before. I also had to decide something. I had to decide what side of history I was going to fall on. Not that I was fence-sitting, or not that I was not pretty clear in some of the things that I've said here on the podcast. However, I am a man of purpose. And when I lost that job, I lost my purpose. Even though I understand that we shouldn't tie our purpose up in our job, but these are the stereotypes that we've come to understand, yeah? And I had to reason with that and understand that that's not who I am. It's what I do, but it's not who I am. And I had to stop the continual cycle of martyrdom, or you might call it victimization or self-victimization, self-sabotage, that some of these patterns were ingraining in me. And look, this has happened to me a few times over the last few, and it just seems to be all of a sudden, the last few times when I've lost work, it's definitely not been my fault. However, obviously there's always things that I've contributed to, and I take the lessons and I try to apply those in the next position. However, realistically, it wasn't me. However, I took that upon myself that it was, and I had to stop that. And I had to decide which side of history I'm going to be on. Because I can't, I think there's that, for those that don't know, Tryphon is a Greek name. I have Wog in me. And there's that line in 300. We only require you to kneel. Well, see, that's going to be a fucking problem. Okay? Because I can't. Within my soul, within who my being, I can't. And, one of the other things that happened recently is that we lost our first person associated with the podcast. One of our awesome coders lost his partner of many years. And it's amazing how fragile life is. Yeah. And that affected me as well. Not as much as it affected him, obviously. However, it reinforced that life is short. And this is a guy that has been a supporter of mine from the start. All right, you may notice that this Unsupervised, I've actually videotaped. I'm actually adopting and trying to adopt a new way, and trying to adopt a new understanding, and trying to move forward in a way that I can reinvent and readjust my fortitude and my will and my discipline. Because I have decided what side of history I'm on, and I'm not really going to hide in the shadows anymore. I don't necessarily... There's a big part of me, I'm an introverted extrovert, there's a big part of me that doesn't actually want to do this. And it kind of freaks me out, the level that it's grown to. And actually letting it go for a couple of weeks was an interesting exercise. I let social media go. I let the podcast go. And it was interesting, we talk about martyrdom and victim mentality. My thought process went all the way, I'm not going to give it up. That's it. I'm done. Rah, rah, rah. That, of course, is not true. I'll never give this up. This is what I do. However, that was an interesting thought pattern as well. As listeners would know, or, any new listeners, welcome. I'm not shy about the fact that I've been a long-term sufferer of depression. And like a lot of things, you learn to deal with that. But it's always there. The the black dog and the black hole at times was always hovering on the edge of your peripheral vision at times. And actually, do you know one of the things that really made me not give in to my depression this time is, and I'm not sure if this was real or not, I'll be honest with you guys, I was chased by a black dog on my bike on the track. Come out of the bush, come out of nowhere, and literally ran after me. And I had to outrun it. And I was in top gear trying to outrun it. It was after me. Yeah, to me, that was as real as it gets. Did that really happen? I'm not sure. However, I think prior to that happening, I was on the brink of giving in to that side of myself. And I made a conscious decision that day not to do that. And it was since that day, I was really trying to move forward, but I was putting immense stress on myself for a few different reasons. And then when I tried to let go, I got very sick. And it's literally only the last 48 hours that I've come good. When we're suffering so much stress at the moment, and we're suffering so much pressure. And, you know, I do a couple of jobs these days, and I was out in the bush with one of my jobs, and you know I'm afforded the luxury just I'm walking around by myself and cleaning stuff up, and I was listening to the JRE, and he quickly went through Zuby Music's The 20 Things I've Learned About Humanity. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my God, I need to do an unsupervised on that. And I haven't done an unsupervised in a while. Yeah. So I thought I'd sit down and unpack it, because the side of history I'm on, these things and these questions and these things that Zuby has learned, and it's brilliant. Like I bowed down to his comprehension level with some of this stuff he's talking about. However, it needs to be expanded upon. And I've got some other thoughts that sort of tie into all these things, but the statements and the observations that he makes are so important that I want to chat about each one of them. Number one, most people would rather be in the majority than be right. Yeah, I think so. I think my perspective on that is that at some point in the last little while, we've given a voice to the minority. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, I suppose. And therefore, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that is seen as the chosen narrative, then everyone falls into line regardless of whether it's right or not. Probably one of the things that comes to my mind was that I learned the other day there was a spa in LA where a transgender person that had not removed that had identified as a woman, so it was a man, had not removed his balls or penis, and you're only half committed there, I think. Look, be the best gender fluid unicorn you can be, but I'd go the whole hog if that's what you're going to do. I was walking around a change room in front of small children with all the business hanging out. A mother complained that her small daughter did not need to see that, and I totally agree with that. And it turns out she was shouted down, and now that spa allows that. Right? That is fucking ridiculous. Okay, there's no other way to paint that. And I tell you what, if I'm out with my girls, and look, they're getting old enough to take themselves into public toilets, and I stand outside, all right, because I respect as a man that I should not be in the females' toilets. But I tell you what, if a transgender woman wanders in after my daughters because they identify as a woman, I'm going to identify as the fucking tooth fairy, okay? And we're going to see how that ends. Those people, and they've had all this support online. Like, are you serious? I can't even with that, yeah? Because what is right at the moment, especially, okay? Let me backtrack for a second. The reason I want to have this and do this unsupervised is we are living in prophetic times. We are. End of story, okay? People don't want to talk about that. They don't want to admit that that is what is happening. And I don't understand why. Is it fear? I think it's fear. I think it's wanting so badly to get back to normal that we don't want to acknowledge it. But understand this. Our grandchildren's children will research what we did last year, this year, and in the years to come. Or what we didn't do, probably more to the point, yeah? As opposed to what we did do. We need to make a decision. We need to see clearly and understand what is going on. Okay? And I'll get more into that as we go along. But that's the reasons. When I heard Zuby's 20 things, I'm like, I can adapt that into trying to discuss this. All right? Most people would rather be in the majority than be right. For example, here in Queensland right now, okay, we're still wearing masks. It has literally been days on days since a locally acquired case of the whatever it is happened. Yet we still wear masks. People are wearing masks walking around outside. There was 70,000 deaths of the flu in 2019. Influenza, proper influenza. Okay, it was said that it was plus 70,000. 5 people a day were dying. More than that at times across the country in 2019. Like, remember, that was the year before, and nothing was said. No footy games stopped, no music festivals, nothing. Nothing. Okay? We had a respiratory virus go through our local township, and I spoke about that earlier this year. That literally went up and down the East Coast and had tens of thousands, and that virus kills children. Never made the news. Okay? Any of these are like the thing is right now with the current situation, you don't have to launch into conspiracy theory. You just have to do 5 minutes research to start questioning what is going on. And because the TV, okay, I think I posted a meme, it's like, you know, you wouldn't need a TV and propaganda to tell you there was something going on. But psychological operations need that, yeah? For example, there was a poll taken where they asked a couple of thousand Australians how many people had died due to the current events, and the highest number was 1,000 this year. Sorry, how many people had died due to the current events this year? The highest number that someone said was 1,000. So a lot of people said about 400 or 500. It averaged out to about 225. Do you know how many people have died in Australia this year due to the current events? Drum roll. 0. None. Bungle, as I used to say up north. None. So what is going on? Okay, what is going on? But because it is for your safety, okay, which, look, behind, see these books here? A lot of those are history books. I'd love to just read a history book. There's books over here. A lot of those are history books. Now, I've had some new books added to the collection thanks to a fellow coder, which I haven't read. However, most of those ones I have. I'm a history buff. Obviously, why do you think, what led me to the megaliths, yeah? Every single majority of the downfalls of any society, the starting message was, it's for your safety. It's not for your safety. It is for a level of control that we're only beginning to understand. But because the narratives in the majority want to be right, there we go. Most people would rather be in the majority than be right. Let's keep moving. Number 2, at least 20% of the population has a strong authoritarian. At least 20% of the population has strong authoritarian tendencies, which will emerge under the right conditions. Yes, I've seen that. It's actually terrifying. It's going to make me light a cigarette. How quickly and easily people have started to walk lockstep down the street, enforcing ridiculous things that don't actually make a lot of sense, has been unbelievably disappointing and saddening to me. I think I said on one of the other episodes earlier, I'm not angry anymore, I'm just disappointed. I honestly thought more. And look, this whole, there's a meme. As you guys know, I'm a meme collector. I've got one in my phone. I think it's mutating into a totalitarian dictatorship. It is. They're literally telling us when we can't work, when we can work, what we can read, what we can accept. They're censoring our messaging between ourselves on social media platforms, etc., etc., etc. In fact, I'll be surprised if this one lasts on YouTube. Okay? I will be surprised. I'll try and be careful and keep the keywords out of it, but I'll be surprised. Read a history book. Any time they restrict what we know and restrict our movements and restrict who we are and all those sorts of things, never ends good. It always ends badly. But it is amazing. It's the space daddy thing or the God thing. We don't have religion anymore. So someone steps up and goes, oh, you better do this because it's for your safety, and then everyone to enforce it. Like we got a local town cry here that is a lazy piece of shit, to be perfectly honest. He's all over Facebook. I wish we had more compliance with the mask down at Fernvale. We can do better. We have not had a single case within 25 k's of where I live. Ever. In the whole time. Okay? But yes, it's fucking sad that 20% of the population has strong authoritarian tendencies and will emerge under the right conditions. Yeah, I think so. And it's terrifying. That's the reason there's always two sides, yeah? One side's always willing to walk lockstep. Hail Hydra. Fear of death is only rivaled by the fear of social disapproval. The latter fear could be stronger. Yeah, I think so. Again, something that's been surprising to me. But we live in such a keep up with the Joneses world. I suppose the thing is I exited that world a long time ago and rode my own boat. So, and I've never really been a part of it. I could care less. I do my thing and you do your thing. If you're cool to me, I'll be cool to you. If you're not cool, fine. Fuck off. I don't care, However, it does seem that way. You go into the inner city suburbs of Brisbane and people are literally walking in the sunlight with their masks on, with no one within 100 metres of them. And they're only doing that to be socially acceptable. I think sort of goes a little bit back to the transgender thing. Now, I've met men that were women, and I've met women that were men. I've got no problems with that. I grew up in a gay and lesbian social world, okay? Right? I attended Mardi Gras and AIDS marches and et cetera, my whole life. I had two gay guys, teach me how to be Raymond the Wizard of the Wand. Was a gay hairdresser in a play I did in high school, okay? So I'm not against any of that. However, it's become a fad. And with none of these things, we can't talk about mental illness. Well, we should fucking talk about mental illness. You want to talk about death numbers? The numbers have come through. This is men. Men between the ages of 18 and 55. 300,000 men in Australia killed themselves last year. Let that sink in. 300,000. Do we hear about that? No, we don't. Why? That is an epidemic problem. Okay? Then that's not all suicides. Who knows what the real number is? Remembering there's only about 28 million people in Australia. So 300,000 is a fair percent of the population. Unbelievable that you have to dig to find that information. Let's have a look. Number 4. Propaganda is just as effective in the modern day as it was 100 years ago. Access to limitless information has not made the average person any wiser. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Propaganda, the way that it works and how it feeds into our psyche is stunning. I think one of the other things that we have out here is in my little family we don't have public TV. Okay, we sit in a valley. So, and Foxtel's too bloody expensive and not really worth it. So we don't actually have the public news channels, okay? And I, go around and see my parents, and they watch the news religiously, as they have done since time memorial. And the negative stories, it's like 9 or 10. There was 2 news things that I actually had to walk away from. There was not a single positive story in the news. Not a single one. If it bleeds, it leads. If it feeds the fear and control, then that is what you want. That is what we're doing. That is what we're taking into our minds. We used to watch the Today Show for some reason back when one of my daughters was little, and we used to have it on in the morning. And for whatever reason, I sat down there one day, and it was 7 negative news stories before we heard something positive at 6 o'clock in the morning. That feeds into our psyche. The propaganda is working. And I'm outside of that. As I said, we don't have public TV in my house. We've got Netflix and a couple of the other ones. And we don't listen to it. We don't see it. Right? We're not being fed by it. But obviously people are. You should not need the TV to tell you that something's happening. You should be able to see it with your own eyes. What I see with my own eyes is the propaganda working. I think the other side of this too as well, access to limited information has not made the average person any wiser. One of the things that has happened with the situation that I've gone through is I've had a great reduction in income. Okay, that's just that's what happened over this period. So me and my wife were forced to sit down and have a look at what it costs to run our household. I was staggered by the number. So was she. We were stuck because we live a pretty humble existence, yeah. We don't spend a lot of money on frivolous things. We don't eat takeout all the time. Like we don't we're not big spenders. We got our house at a reasonable price, and our mortgage is very, very low. We look for the best deals and everything. You never pay full price for anything. But despite that, the cost that it took to run our household staggered me. And what I immediately thought, because I knew what our financial situation was, we don't have credit cards or any of that sort of stuff. We don't have any of that. And I thought, hang on a minute. What are these people that with $1 million mortgages and multiple credit cards and brand new cars and the whole keeping up the Joneses thing? They don't have time. They expect that the media will give them the truth, and then they believe that because it's the propaganda, and they tell you the right words, and they feed the fear, and they feed the control. And it was staggering. Obviously we're trying to make changes. However, there wasn't a lot of changes to be made. That was the other interesting thing too. Like the baseline didn't really change. If you wanted to have insurance and pay your mortgage and house insurance and whatever else, you wanted to have all those basic things in play, the number that it was still staggering. I couldn't quite believe it. It's no bloody wonder everyone's going mad and people are killing themselves, yeah? If that's the pressure you have on yourself the whole time. So I think that is also why the average person is not any wiser, because they are strictly and eternally in survival mode. That's what they do every day, okay? And look, life is in modern existence is not easy, yeah? You got 2 small children, you're up at 6, your day's not done till 9, Yes, you can discipline yourself and make time here and there, but if your family are working, 2 jobs, 3 jobs, all right, what time do you have to actually be critical, a critical observer? You just take in what you've got. And a surprising number of people still listen to the radio as well. I don't listen to the radio. I haven't done for years when I found podcasting. However, again, that's just a reinitiation of all that propaganda. And if you hear it over and over and over and over and over again, it's going to become your narrative. Anything and everything, that's number 5, anything and everything can and will be politicised by the media, government, and those who trust them. Sort of a follow-on from the propaganda, isn't it? Like to think that survey, how many people is the current situation killed in the last year? 500, 300, 0. The only reason that the fear and the numbers have been jammed up, well, that's the thing, the numbers haven't been jammed up. You can find the numbers, but people, oh, no, that's not right. Or I don't know what they say. I find it unbelievable, yeah? But this is a political game, right? Here's a perfect example. The state of emergency ended here in Queensland on the 29th of June. We went into lockdown 6 p.m. that night so they could extend the state of emergency. And they're currently trying to drum up the fear so they can extend their state of emergency powers until the end of next year. The end of next year. Why? This has been a political game. Don't get me started on the needles and the other treatments that are available and have been suppressed. It's politics and money, okay? Greed and manipulation. This is the world we've created. We've allowed this to happen under our noses. I think because they distract us with, give them bread and games, and they'll, they won't look at what you're doing. Like, that's butchered, but that's an old Roman thing. And that's what they do. They give us endless distraction and just keep doing what they're doing. You talk about politics. We are here in Australia. We've been sold out, and our country has been sold out from underneath us by our politicians. How do you even begin to contemplate that? It's scary. Many politicians and large corporations will gladly sacrifice human lives if it is conducive to their political and financial aspirations. Right. The current situation, 0 deaths. The current solution that everybody's been pushing for this situation has over 300 deaths associated with it. So 300%, okay, was that 3,000%? Whatever it is, on, if one is 100, it's not even, that's, anyway, it is 300 times at this present moment more likely to kill you than what is actually going on because of, and it's all about money and moving forward a solution that is not good, okay? I don't care which way you swing it. It's not a good idea. All right. Like, again, political and financial aspirations. We have been sold out in this country. And look, a politician, Jackie Lambie, stood up in our parliament to complain about basically China and the fact that they're buying everything and, slowly taking over Southeast Asia and Australasia, which they are, without a shadow of a doubt. And you know how many people? The parliament sits like 400 people. Do you know how many people were in that room to listen to that speech? Like 3 or 4. So what that tells me is every single other one of those politicians has Chinese money or corrupt money to do with everything else in their pockets. They are not for the people. And they haven't been for a long time, and we need to wake up to that. And that's not just here. It's a global issue. Where are we? That was number 6. Number 7. Most people believe the government acts in the best interest of the people, even many who are vocal critics of the government. It's an interesting one. I lost a follower the other day. He's liked my stuff for a very long time. Basically, I went to the shops in a hoodie, a buff, and a hat. And I made a social media post about it. It was one of the last ones I did before I got crook. And he goes, what did he say to me? I didn't know you're an anti-masker. Nice knowing you. I'm not an anti-masker. I am anything below N95 mask does not work person. And I saw one today, someone who put Diamantes on the front of their mask. I mean, they're fashionising their face diapers, yeah? I'm not anti-anything apart from anti-fear and control. Remember that it's zeros across the board here. Right? They're doing 10 to 15,000 tests a day and not getting a single positive outcome. So what the fuck? I'm anti-fear and control. When people are in that much of a state of control that they They walk around outside in the sunlight, which actually kills the current situation quickly. And like that one speaks for itself, yeah. But it's also interesting. Because I replied to him and he said, the government stuffs us over in so many ways, but not in it to do with our health. Why would you think that? We have pretty much unequivocal proof across the board, doesn't matter who you are, where you are, that every single institution, major institution, is so full of shit that it's ridiculous, okay? That's been proven. Every institution. So why do you think that the government has got our health in its best interest as well? That's a ridiculous thing to think. And you know what I see too? All these health ministers across the world, they're not bloody healthy. Are you serious? All right, I would like my health minister to be fit and jacked and looked after. But again, modern medical science is focused on illness, not wellness, yeah? Because the reality is, behind the current situation, if you took your vitamins, went in the sunlight and looked after yourselves and ate better, nothing would happen. But we don't want to focus on that, do we? Because that doesn't make money and doesn't spread the fear and control. Number 8, once they've made up their mind, most people would rather commit to being wrong than admit they were wrong. Yeah. Well, that's why I was scapegoated. Right? They knew that they'd messed up, but they were that committed to not revealing that they'd messed up that they used me as a way to get out of that. And that's happening in all levels of society. That's happening in all levels of government, in business, in everything. What happened to integrity? What happened to respect? What happened to that? What happened to those basic human things? What happened? Staggers me. I feel like the only reason, the whole nice guys finish last thing, and I have actually, in my depression and martyrdom, I'm a nice guy, I always finish last, but fuck. We've built a society where being nice to people is an aberration on a vast level. Something is desperately wrong. And the current situation is breeding that wrongness. Wake up. Number 9, humans can be trained and conditioned quickly and relatively easily to significantly alter their behaviours for better or worse. I don't understand. That he's totally right, and it's very, very disturbing. And I don't understand what the mechanism is there. Again, I think it's a survival instinct. People have got an insane number to work towards every week just to survive. Not to thrive, survive. And because they do that, they will alter their behaviour to try and make sure that their situation doesn't change. Right? It's that old adage, hard men make easy times make soft men make hard times. We're in a transition to the hard times. Make no doubt about that. And be ready or not. Here it comes. And again, just the willingness for people to walk lockstep has really twisted my mind a lot. And I was not prepared for that. I had greater faith in humanity. And while more and more people are waking up every day, we're still outnumbered at this point. We need to spread the word. Number 10, when sufficiently frightened, most people will not only accept authoritarianism but demand it. Isn't that unbelievable? What are you doing for our safety? Did you catch a cold last year? Did you catch the flu in 2019 for my Australian listeners? It was probably worse than if you got what's going on now. Okay? That's the reality behind it, right? The average age of death still exceeds the average age of life expectancy. The numbers are ridiculous. You do not have to be a conspiracy theorist to just look at the numbers objectively and go, hang on, what the fuck? Seriously. And look, I know most of my listeners probably agree with the things that I'm saying, but I'm doing this one because I think it needs to be passed around. So I do ask my listeners to pass this one around, because we need to have an honest discussion and people need to wake up and realize we are in the middle of prophetic times. What we are doing or not doing will affect our children and our children's children. And the train's almost left the station. Number 11. People who are dismissed as conspiracy theorists are often well researched and simply ahead of the mainstream narrative. I've actually seen that time and time again. I'll see a lot with the megalithic research as well. Look, conspiracy theorists, there's an interesting, I'm trying to remember the podcast, but there was an interesting podcast I listened to, it was quite a while ago now, that was talking about conspiracy theories just came up. It was in the 50s or 60s at some point, and it came up over something that was supposed to be true. Yeah, to pretend that there haven't been false flag events that have caused major things across the globe, the Vietnam War being one, okay, that was a false flag. It never happened. That the ship that got bombed never got bombed. It never happened. Yet tens of thousands of Western allies and hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese died. Like, I don't even, yeah. My research suggests across the board that so many things are made of beds of sand that I don't even think them of as conspiracies anymore. I think them as of thinly veiled lies. And I'm at the point now where I don't trust anything. And I don't believe in anything. And I think that's actually a good way to be, because that means you're open to the truth of whatever it is. Yeah. But just take 5 minutes and research it. All right. If you're having a viscerally negative reaction to some of the things that I'm saying, that's cool. Turn it off. However, take some time and research it. Number 12. Most people value safety and security more than freedom and liberty, even if said safety is merely an illusion. Well done, brother. Well done, Zuby, man. That is awesome, because he's totally right. Like, most people value safety and security more than freedom and liberty, even if said safety is merely an illusion. This whole thing is for your safety at the moment is an illusion. Is a constant extension of control. Okay? If this thing was more vicious and took care of more of the percentage of the population, I wouldn't be feeling like this. But the numbers don't add up. They haven't from the start. Right? It's for your safety. Okay? That was Adolf Hitler's catch cry, just for the record. And every authoritarian dictator, we need to do this, it's for your safety. Okay? Every major advanced civilization that fell over, they started to do things that were for the safety of the people. Right? It's like those words are like a soothing back rub or something. I don't know. Freedom and liberty is all we have. Like, the beginnings of what's happening now, no shit, our grandfathers' fathers went to war over this stuff, yeah? Millions of people died in defense of freedom and liberty. And within 100 years, we're beginning to give it back. Hedonic, number 13. Hedonic, it's been a while since I've been behind the mic. Number 13, hedonic adaptation occurs in both directions. Once inertia sets in, it is difficult to get people back to normal. Once you've decided to be on the extreme end of something, then it's hard to bring yourself back from that. And I think I would get very ranty with a lot of the stuff. I think I was being extreme, and part of my process of late has been to come back to an objective perspective and center myself and understand where I sit personally, regardless of anybody else or anything else. okay? But there is no normal anymore, by the way. Whatever normally existed prior to January last year no longer exists. Deal with it. Your constant obedience and quest to get back to normal, and it may not be my listeners, but the people you see around you, their constant quest and their unfiltering or unflappable obedience to the narrative is what's going to be our undoing. Uh, 14. A significant percentage of the people thoroughly enjoy being subjugated. Isn't that interesting? It seems to be true, though. I don't. You know, like I said earlier, we only require an ear. Well, that's going to be a fucking problem. However, it's the space daddy thing again, I think. People want to be ruled, I suppose. I don't know what that is because I'm not someone who can be subjugated easily. But it does seem that a significant percentage of people thoroughly enjoy being subjugated. "15. The science has evolved into a secular pseudo-religion for millions of people in the West. The religion has little to do with science itself." So true. So true. The willingness to inject ourselves with poison, untested poison, that needs to have governments with emergency powers in order to administer it, because if they don't, it goes against the Health and Human Rights Code. That's the reality. Okay? That's honestly what is going on. Why? I don't understand. You know, we did a podcast, again with Brendan Murphy actually, about science and spirituality. And he's got an excellent book on that as well. However, it has become a religion. Like the white coat and the stethoscope and all that sort of stuff, that is actually them playing on your playing mental games with you, yeah? I think I've said this before, but, you know, if you had a headache and I said to you that if you go and find a willow bark tree, strip some bark off it, boil it, and drink the tea that comes out of it, it's going to taste terrible, but your headache's going to go away, you'd call me crazy. But I was to give you a little white tablet that you really don't know what is in it. Neither do I. I'm not pretending that I do. But we don't know what's in it. This is the white tablet that says Panadol, good for headaches. You take it unflappably because science and medicine have told you so. And look, it works. But the other truth about that is they're not actually sure why it works. They just know that it does. Okay, there's so many medications like that. They're literally just testing you. And I've been part of that test bed. When I was sick with my jungle virus back in 2013, they were just throwing drugs at me. They had no idea what was wrong with me. They had no idea how to treat it. I was literally a test bed. And what's interesting, what kept me and my brain power and everything alive was alternative medicine by my beautiful wife. It's the reality. I've read studies on people who had an ongoing temperature and fever for the amount of time that I had it, and they end up with moderate to severe brain damage depending on the individual. The only difference between me and them is my wife came into the hospital and slipped me vitamins and bushflower essences and alternative medications. That's the only difference. You know, and science itself does a disservice to itself because, you know, I think maybe the megalithic culture was a joining of science and spirituality, and that's probably why it ended. I'm not sure, but science is fascinating. And look, I've been a student of science, and I love science, and the discoveries that have been made through science are immense and amazing. I'm not saying they're not the same as medicine, but they're very single-minded. Space daddy again, you know. You know, the doctor said, oh, well, that's okay. The doctor said, yeah. There's no other options, the doctor said, yeah. I know about half a dozen people over the years that have gone to the doctor. The doctor told them they were fine, and they dropped dead inside a week. Turns out they wasn't fine, but everyone was okay because the doctor said they were. And the question at all of those times was why? Why did this happen? The doctor said we were okay. You seen a healthy doctor recently? The person you has to provide your medicine, do they look healthy to you? Didn't think so. Shouldn't that be a question? You know, we talk about science and the other sides of research. I'm in here at the podcast, and these people would die on these ideas that are just wrong, and they will not question anything else, and that's a problem. And again, it has little to do with science itself. It goes back to the authoritarian, it goes back to being subjugated, and it goes back to the space daddy thing. We need someone to tell us that everything's going to be okay. Guess what? Life is not okay. Life is challenge. Okay? We need to remember that. All right. Number 16. Interesting one. Most people care about looking like they are doing the right thing rather than actually doing the right thing. You guys know what integrity means? Integrity means doing the right thing regardless of whether someone is watching or not. All right? Doing the right thing regardless. How many of us do that, or we just do what we think will get us the social status? Again, this isn't something I really suffer because I couldn't give a fuck. Okay? I do what I do. And I'm not really fussed. You do what you'll do. You be cool to me, I'll be cool to you. But seems for a vast majority of the population, this is true. Hence the reason I saw someone in the middle of the park by themselves wearing a mask. This park's like 100 metres by 200 metres. Like, that is just, you want to be seen to be doing the right thing. But the very fact you're standing in the park in the sun means you're negating whatever's happening anyway. Maybe if we brought love, respect and integrity back on all levels. What a crazy idea, yeah? What a crazy idea. Number 17. Politics, the media, science and the healthcare industries are all corrupt to varying degrees. Scientists and doctors can be bought as easily as politicians. Depending on who they are, probably more easily. Like I said earlier, every single level and every single major institution has been found to be corrupt and greedy and manipulative, bar none. Why would we pretend that scientists and doctors aren't the same? Let's not forget that Jeffrey Epstein, who didn't kill himself, should I say, was courting many, many scientists and doctors across the world, taking them to his island and doing whatever happened on that island. That is what was happening. And remembering too that, what's her name, Ghislaine or whatever it was, has had she went to court, but whatever she said in that courtroom has been taken away from the people because it'd be too shocking. So that means the level of corruption and greed and just who knows what is unbelievable. That is our leaders. That is our leaders. But they're not leaders, are they? I wouldn't let them lead me out of a wet paper bag. I don't actually remember the last time I saw... Look, I'm not going to say that. What's her name? The female senator from Hawaii. I can't remember her name now. Tulsi Gabbard, Dan Crenshaw. These are obviously American guys, but they do show leadership qualities. And it's interesting, they both call out this same corruption and greed that we choose to ignore because we think it's for our safety. Ridiculous. 18. If you make people comfortable enough, they will not revolt. You can keep millions docile as you strip their rights by giving them money, food, and entertainment. Yeah, well, the Romans did that one, didn't they? keep them bread and entertainment, and they'll let you do whatever. We've created a survival mode in comfort. I've been thinking a bit about this. So we talk about, we're in survival mode, or we have the amount of entertainment, Netflix, Stan, Disney Plus, whatever, Amazon, etc. That is just to keep us distracted. And look, don't get me wrong. Do me and the missus sit there and watch Netflix? Absolutely we do. We did it's quite fascinating. My girls have gone through a Jurassic Park phase. And we've actually watched all the movies, and I was surprised that they wanted to watch them because they're not exactly not scary, but what do? We do that. We do the entertainment, right? Think about the amount of sugar, and this is coming from someone with a sugar problem, coming from someone who's put a little bit of weight on recently and has to refocus and readjust, and it's all been part of the process through not eating properly and, not choosing the right things. I'm well aware of that. And I participate in these things, as we all do to some degree. However, it doesn't mean they're not there. And we've been kept docile for so long. And then on the flip side of that, with everything is so expensive that if we don't stay the course, then, our way of life, our comfort will be taken. So we bow down and follow the fear and control because, again, it's for our safety. Where are we up to? 19. Modern people are overly complacent and lack vigilance when it comes to defending their own freedoms from government overreach. Absolutely. But I think it goes back to, again, the cost of existing in this modern world and how much time it takes to raise children and then the distractions on top of that, the screens that we have in front of each other the whole time, in front of ourselves the whole time. All of those things come into play, but we don't defend ourselves anymore. I'm not entirely sure why. I wasn't really, and look, and it's my fault. I mean, I cry from the rooftops now that, we've been sold out, but I wasn't paying attention during the time. I think, most of us have been so disillusioned by politics the world over, and we just choose not to do anything about it because it never used to affect our day-to-day. Now it does. And when we give governments and politicians get control, they do not want to give it back. Or they'll take 100%, and when it comes back, you can have 50% back, but we need the other 50% just in case, Not too sure if people remember, prior to the current situation, the massive fires that were here in Australia. There's still people right now in the Blue Mountains in New South Wales living in tents with their burnt homes around them. Do you know how much TV coverage that gets in any of the news? It gets nothing. None. Zero. Right? And then a lot of the money that people gave to the charities to help those people rebuild their lives, you know what happened to that? Oh, we better hang on to it just because of the current situation. And then the Salvo's boss got $1 million pay rise or something like that. It's disgusting. However, we allow it to happen. This is part of the issue, right? And this has been part of my problem trying to rack my head around, is that we have allowed this to happen. Therefore, to some degree, it's our fault. Okay? We've decided not to stand when we should stand. And it's like, I'll give them an inch, they take a mile. Okay? We'll just take this little bit. Oh, no one noticed. Oh, we'll just take a bit more. We'll just take a bit more. We'll just take a bit more. There's a classic stat where I think it's something ridiculous like $25 trillion has been given to Africa since the first Live Aid back in the day. What's changed there? Not a lot. And the reason for that is that the money just, just take a little bit here, take a little bit there. And they just keep taking a little bit of time, right? I think I used the boiling frog analogy. There's that science experiment where you put a frog in a cold saucepan of water and you slowly turn up the temperature and it doesn't realise it's being boiled alive. until it's too late. The temperature is being ramped up. Look around. The other thing is too is that we outnumber the government by millions, if we chose to, just for the record. And we need to contemplate that at some point in the near future that may be necessary in order for it to defend our freedoms and liberties. And whatever normal was no longer exists. End of story, full stop. Okay? We are now on a different path. Number 20. It's easier to fool a person than convince them they have been fooled. It's a bit sad, this one, but it's true. People don't want to admit that they're wrong or they've been taken for a ride. So what they do is they do everything within their power to not admit that. And look, I'll admit that in the time past that's been me. No one wants to admit that you made a mistake or that you didn't see something you should have seen. And be that what happens then, the problem is that when they have been fooled and they don't want to admit it, they double down. And they double down again. And, yeah, and on it goes. That was the 20, right? There's an extra 2 here. Oh, we need to stop calling it common sense because it's rare. Yeah, Zuby, I agree, man. Been saying that one for years. Bonus thoughts from Zuby. 21. Most people are fairly compassionate and have good intentions. As a result, most people deeply struggle to understand that people, including our leaders, and that's in inverted commas, can have malicious or perverse intentions. Okay? See, most people are fairly compassionate and have good intentions. This is good. As a result, most people deeply struggle to understand them. Understand that some people, including our leaders, can have malicious and perverse intentions. This is bad. I would agree with that. One-on-one, look, I'm approaching 5,000 students, yeah? Couple that 300, 400, 500 people across Australasia that I either managed or work with throughout my other career. And by and large, people are compassionate and good people, one-on-one. The problem is the crowd mentality. And, you know, the reason that our leaders, and they're not leaders, just for the record, they're not. They are narcissistic, sociopathic psychopaths. And however, what we've done in our greed, bleed, dog-eat-dog, profit-driven world, those type of personalities succeed. And because we see success as a measure, success in this world is, the biggest pile of gold. Not that it's actually gold anymore, it's imaginary numbers. That's how they end up being in charge. Because they're willing to do things that the good people aren't willing to do. I think, and look, it does, like I said, when I was made a scapegoat, it hurt my soul. I thought, oh my God, I really was unexpected. I never thought for a second that it would happen. And it really, really hurt me. Because I am a good person, I am a compassionate person. And I think you need to do that and be that as a teacher. However, people that are in power in these businesses are smaller versions of that personality type. And that's the personality type that wins the game that we've currently got in play. We've got to change the game. Look, that is Zuby's thoughts, and I really, kudos to him. I have to find him on Instagram and give him a follow because, wow. And I really, it did help me, those 20 points did help me articulate my thoughts around the current process. I have been having issues sleeping, and I'm working on that. I've actually got a new supplement regime and a new bit of focus and purpose that I'm going to start probably tomorrow or the next day once I finally get fully better. However, at 4 o'clock this morning, I had to get up and use the facilities and check my phone, and I don't know why I do that. We all do it though, I suppose, to a percentage. Check the news, and China has threatened total nuclear war on Japan if they assist in the liberation or the defense of Taiwan. Just think about that for a second. Okay, first strike, total nuclear war if Japan does anything to assist the defense of Taiwan. The situation that we are currently in is very problematic and fragile. However, if we're not careful, and it may already be too late, I don't know, if we do not bring ourselves back and give ourselves better understanding and really fight for our liberties and freedoms and stand up, not as East or West, not as a religion, not as any, how about as humans, yeah? Because most of us are cool, and most of us just want to lead a good life, and that was one of my conundrums, yeah? I just wanted to live my life, yeah? Raise my girls, do a cool podcast, teach, and, ride my mountain bike, yeah? I'm a fairly simple guy. I keep looking to the left there because, for those that sit on the video, got a little bloody mouse that lives in this shed. And, yeah, he keeps poking his head out. Or she, I'm not too sure. Just checking to see it's not a snake, actually. Because for my international listeners, I have had a brown snake slither under the door. It's quite a while ago now, but it does happen. If we do not focus on being human, we are going to be in big, big trouble. If we do not see the current situation for what it is, and that is fear and control, we're going to be in trouble. Okay? I've actually got a meme that I might share with you all before I sign off. Where are we? So fear strikes. 2000. Y2K is going to destroy everything. For those that don't understand, that was a big, big thing in 2000. Like, seriously was. 2001, obviously September 11 happened that, but also anthrax is going to kill us all. 2002, West Nile virus is going to kill us all. 2003, SARS is going to kill us all. 2005, bird flu is going to kill us all. 2006, E. coli is going to kill us all. 2008, financial collapse is going to kill us all. 2009, swine flu. 2012, the Mayan calendar. 2013, North Korea is going to cause World War III. 2014, Ebola virus. 15, ISIS. 16, Zika. And then 2020, you know what happened then. Okay? The truth is, fear is going to kill you. Turn off the TV and wash your hands. Yeah. Do not disagree with that. Listen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your patience. I had to step away for a minute to clarify my thoughts and see a way forward how I am back. Got a couple of cool episodes in the bag with Richard and Brendan, and I've got some really cool interviews lined up. I've got an author coming on tomorrow night. Got another guy out of Peru. There's some very cool conversations coming up. We're going to probably delve back into the self stuff a little bit. Martin's been doing some interesting work. I've got a couple of contacts there that I want to talk to. So, listen, I appreciate everybody, and we will stay the course. And much love to all my coders, and stay safe, be focused, be cool, and we'll talk soon. Cheers. Oh, no music this time. I will still stick with the music, however, not for this one. This one is what it is. So I might play you out with the intro that I played you in with. Thanks, guys. Cheers.